and we'll
All
see
right.
what happens as we talk. So I suggest that we talk about the format that we want. I will record everything because we might hit on a topic like we did last time, and that seems to work for us.
I mean, generally that's how I get myself involved in a conversation. But you can also, you can pre-think yourself a topic. Last topic we were talking about was stoicism, right? I mean, like it ended with you starting to read the definition. Then I had to go talk to people about stuff that doesn't really exist.
So are you saying that you're part of a
Stuff that we collectively hallucinate together. It seems to be very useful hallucinations, unlike the previous, oh, God is talking to me hallucinations.
Oh, so
yeah.
we're talking about solipsism right here, if you know what that is.
About what?
Solipsism.
Synapsism? Type it.
Silip. Let me
type to me. Type to me.
I will type to you, Mister.
Type to me, Swedish person, please.
How is it you spell it?
That's an insult, actually.
Solipsism.
How would you say type to me in Danish?
Tal til mig.
Tal til mig. Oh my God. That Elvish is beautiful, dude. Melon means friend, dude. Melon means friend.
Melon. There.
See? Our nerds after all.
Solipsism. There we go.
Solipsism?
Solipsism. Here we go.
Type it.
Solipsism.
Where did you type it?
I put it in backtagging hookers.
Oh, okay. Oh, solipsism.
Yeah, solipsism.
Okay. Yes, solipsism.
You know what that is?
No, I'm not good at terminologies for philosophical.
Okay. Solipsism is when you think that you're the only thing that exists, and when you talk to someone, they exist for that moment. When you stop talking to them, they no longer exist. It's only you.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. You generate the world.
Yeah. It is basically God.
Okay, sure. That's one way to see it.
You create the world as you go along.
That's one way to see it.
Because if you had to be a hard solipsist,
maybe you don't create the world. Maybe. Well, I don't want. I mean, that's.
Well, if you don't create the world, then there is other things in the world already that removes you from being a solipsist.
No, that's not what I was gonna say. Again, I am the quintessential, in this case, physicist. So when you talk to me about solipsism, all I hear is, quantum mechanics, many world theories. All right, feels good, It's like this doesn't seem odd to me as a concept, notion, or even reality, because in a lot of ways, reality seems to behave fairly solipsistically. If that's even a word, I think I just said the word, but
I agree.
It's you could argue that when you interact with, let's call it, as a lack of a better term, call it the multiverse. I don't like calling it the multiverse. I like calling it the Hilbert space because that's the proper mathematical term for it. But in a sense, when you interact with your you can argue that there are no worlds, only Hilbert spaces, okay? And you exist in your own Hilbert space, and there are only interactions between Hilbert spaces. Up until those interact, you're essentially living in a quantum setting in which every interaction is already predetermined. There's a probability associated with a certain outcome. Say, if you decide to talk to someone or anything, not everything is equal probability, right? Mm-hmm. You experiencing one world over another, right? Or generating, if you will, from your solipsistic point of view, you generating one world over another is not something that's necessarily in your hands. You might, in a sense, not be generating the world, rather you're sampling. Okay? If that makes any sense. That makes a lot of sense when you look at solipsism and you go like, well, from a quantum mechanical standpoint, this is really just a measurement.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're telling me up until a measurement, all options exist.
So
no, or all options or no options. You say nothing exists except for this sense of self, and I generate the world around me via interaction.
mm-hmm.
Okay? I say, fair enough, you are a quantum, I mean, you're existing in a quantum multiverse, right? Your consciousness, in a sense, if you strip the physical body from it, but your consciousness basically your consciousness comprises a wave function, and that wave function collapses in a given measurement to a given you and a given world, right?
Okay.
Or a given universe. Okay? But it's not you who gets to have an arbitrary decision as to which of them you're going to sample. It's the interaction between the various wave functions of not just you, but other consciousnesses. Okay? And yes, I do say there are other consciousnesses because, in a sense, I cannot, let's say, disregard the fact that they comprise a measurement. Okay? They comprise a part of this universe. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I generate a universe in which there are other consciousnesses. Okay?
Yeah. Right now, I'm
Therefore, I
inside your
should be able to
universe.
assume that the other consciousnesses can also generate a world in which I am a consciousness, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is not something, I am not unique. I am God, but I am God in a realm of many gods, infinite gods, yes?
Lowercase God.
Yeah, I am a God in the realm of gods. Like
Mm-hmm.
everybody is a God in the same way that I am. Every consciousness is God, yeah? And so there is a potential for interaction between those consciousnesses, especially if you look at it again. And I'm doing it probably I'm doing it a gross injustice. Okay, by looking at through a simplified lens of this is what the association that I had. I don't know this deeply enough. I don't know philosophy deeply enough, but it echoes of stuff that in a quantum mechanical sense would be fairly sensible to say. In these, in physics nowadays, in theoretical physics, the notion of many worlds, of splitting timelines, is very prevalent. It's kind of a notion that evolves naturally from the concept of quantum physics and multiple options for multiple wave functions, and also in the way that everything, in effect, is entangled. So there should, in a sense, be entanglement between everything that ever came in contact with one another. And since everything came in contact with one another in the Big Bang, then essentially everything should be entangled quantum wave function-wise. You're then thinking of a wave function for the universe rather than a wave function for anything specific.
With what you're saying, I'm trying to twist this a little bit towards because I'm dumb.
Okay.
So
no, it's because it's a very cornered point of view from me. It's not you being dumb. It's me having a very specific set of words that enable me to express an idea which is relevant in some cases, but not necessarily towards a philosophical standpoint. Yeah, philosophy is not aimed at necessarily understanding the universe.
Just ask me any one question about physics, and I can't answer. So I am completely ignorant. I am not even a lay person. But my point here was that if we go with the whole thing that each individual consciousness creates its own world, right? That's okay. Then we go on to quantum entanglement, which I find fucking interesting, to be honest. I watched a documentary on quantum entanglement, and I thought this would be interesting because what you're saying right there, then somehow, by whatever freak accident or whatever, quantum entanglement could happen with more particles in our brains. Would that then be some kind of point in the right direction that telepathy would be an option?
You have people thinking about it in multiple ways. The emergence of consciousness as something that involves entanglement, that's hard to prove. It's hard to disprove. It's hard to probe. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do your brains work on a quantum level? Certainly. Because we're talking about very small structures that manipulate molecular and atomic structures. We're talking about things that, you know, generate and have very good potential barriers, that have very good control of electrical impulses. There's a lot of, when you're talking about biochemistry and chemistry, and then chemistry in a sense is physics, is quantum physics. I mean, it's down the chain. What I do is even smaller than that. But to say that you can't have okay, think of like, I'll say it like this. Think of quantum mechanics as something that emerges when things get really small, okay?
Oh, yeah.
And so the question is how small? And when you start from the smallest, what is the smallest? The smallest is a point, right? It has no volume. It exists, you know, it's a mathematical point. That's it. It's a zero-dimensional object, right?
Okay.
It occupies no volume and no nothing. But as you start growing from that little point notion into some volume, right? Then you have to ask yourself kind of when do I have quantum phenomena? So I have quantum phenomena as close as I get to the point. But when I start leaving and I start having longer scales of distance, right? Or lower energies, then I see less and less. And that sounds weird what I just said, but larger scales of distance are also equivalent to saying lower scales of energy. Okay?
Okay.
But as soon as I look at larger distances, at larger objects, I lose a lot of the quantum properties that only emerge when they are small enough. Now, do you ask me, do quantum phenomena emerge when it comes to our brains and our biology? Certainly they do. Okay? There are certainly interesting phenomena that, in a sense, are not exactly quantum mechanical, but very close to it. Driven certainly by quantum mechanics.
Can I say it like this, that we exist in a universe where quantum mechanics exists. So as we are part of a universe, naturally, quantum mechanics things happens in us.
Yeah, but that's another interesting topic. And again, I don't want to make this too much into physics, you know, conversation, but because that was never my point. But just because you introduced the solipsism, up until that point, you know, up until that point, I didn't introduce physics. Other than saying that Stoic mindsets are good for scientists, they're useful. But up until that point, I didn't introduce it. But now, you know, that solipsism sure echoes of things that are familiar to me. That's why. But the thing is, the interesting bit is, like you say, inherently, you're right. Inherently, everything around us is composed of stuff that behaves quantum mechanically. Let me blow your mind even further. It's not even about what composes stuff. Everything on the lower on that scale behaves quantum mechanically. Light is a quantum mechanical, even though I can take a prism right now, Dark Side of the Moon style, right? You know Dark Side of the Moon, the album cover, right? The prism. So the light that goes through the prism, right? I can do that right now. That is not a quantum phenomenon. Okay, that is a macro phenomenon. It happens on a large scale, right? But the light that comprises is quantum mechanical in its essence, and I can find a way to show you why quantum mechanically this should happen. Okay?
Yeah.
Or how this would happen quantum mechanically. Why there would be a different, you know, why there would be a different deflection or stuff like that. And that would relate to how light behaves quantum mechanically, but everything behaves quantum mechanically. The matter that you think of, atoms and you know, you're not even, I'm looking at my table because that's the first thing that comes to my mind, right? But it's a fucking solid object, right? Well, what this table is not actually anything solid. It's literally just wave functions. It's like wave functions that collide with each other and measure each other, and therefore are, because there's enough of them, because the amount of particles here is so big, the whole system in itself behaves deterministically. So when you say we're quantum mechanical, you're right, but you're also wrong, because we're composed of so many particles that we really can't access the quantum realm due to our, I won't call it scale because it has nothing to do with physical size. It has to do with the number of particles that you have.
Of course.
So things don't, in a sense, things don't get a chance to act quantum mechanically when it comes to you, me, or any big system.
Until it is
Okay?
Until it is interacted with, I guess.
You need I'll say you need smaller. Again, I'll get. I'll give you a good example. Because the next thing I looked at was my computer, right? I was going to say nothing around me behaves quantum mechanically, but it's not 100% because my computer is very close to behaving quantum mechanically. Okay? See, my computer has chips, right? Microchips.
Yeah.
Do you know what the most advanced chips Intel has right now are? What's like the distance between circuits? What's the spacing on...
They use atoms now, right?
They don't use atoms yet. There's a reason for that. There's a lower bound. There's a lower bound to how many processors you can write. I don't know if I can remember. What's it called? Not Bell's law. Yeah, Bell's law. What's Bell's law? Man, should I know this one?
Well,
Bell's law.
I was listening to someone talk about how they can't make processors any more powerful now.
Yeah, I was gonna go say basically that they can't make processors any more powerful because of a quantum mechanical problem.
Yeah, okay? Because when you make them that small, transistors, I guess. When you make them that small,
exactly. The amount of transistors you can put on a chip. That's exactly true. Okay, so the amount of transistors you can put on a chip. I think now the spacing between transistors is a few nanometers. That's what they have right now. Okay. Yeah. The spacing between transistors. Now there's a problem because at lower distances than nanometers, which is 10 to the minus 9. Okay, when you reach distances of the order of 10 to the minus 10, you start having a severe problem. Severe problem is this is your scale of size for radius of the atoms themselves that you're making these transistors from. Okay, yeah. And when you approach this scale of size, you start having a problem because wave functions, and that's where it's going to sound weird because the atoms themselves don't overlap. What really overlaps is their wave function. Okay, and that means that when there's significant overlap between wave functions, then there is a good chance that what would seem to be an electron in one transistor, right? Let's say I have an electron moving through one transistor, okay? Yeah. But the wave functions of the other transistor overlaps with this transistor, and then suddenly it simply jumps to the other transistor. That is a quantum mechanical option. That can happen in quantum mechanics. It can simply decide to tunnel through to the other transistor because the overlap with the wave functions is strong enough. Well, this introduces a inherent, limit to how much you can shove in transistors, at least, into one another. So you're about to reach a bound for that. That's a part of why people look towards quantum mechanics, where you are not limited by it, but you actually want to abuse it. But there's a very big bridge to gap between those two. But I give this an example because it's really about, it will not happen if you're talking about big systems, but only when you reach small systems, small scales of size, do these things start to actually have an impact. When you're talking about 1 electron, 2 electrons, small stuff with small scales of distance, we are huge in comparison. Our brain is huge in comparison. Even our cellular structures are very big in comparison, right?
Yeah, but we still inhabit the smallest structures. We still inhabit those. They're still part of us.
Definitely. And not only that, they still perform in many ways quantum mechanical processes, okay? Exchange of electrons is in a sense a quantum mechanical process. So I'm not saying it's not driven by it, but I'm saying it doesn't behave non-deterministically, okay? And that's the main difference. You don't see the non-deterministic behavior, the wave-like behavior, you really only see a particle behavior, but you don't really see the wave-like behavior when it comes to larger scales of size. Okay, when you probe small shit, that's when you start seeing these weirdnesses. So to say, I don't think our consciousness is so much a quantum phenomena, so much as a phenomena of complexity.
I'm 100% with that.
So in a sense, maybe there is no quantum intelligence because there cannot be enough complexity in a system like that, or at least the complexity. Well, there is. That should straight up lie, because if you have a carefully maintained entangled system, the complexities that it can reach is insane because of the quantum mechanical aspect. It literally explores all the space of probability space. But
the reason I'm asking this, when I was in high school, our physics teacher was telling us.
I talk too much. I'm sorry.
No, you don't. It's perfect. It's perfect. Because I don't know shit. I'm learning stuff, which is, to me, the best thing that can happen. That I learn shit. And I need it. So, but really, my physics teacher said, well, this table is comprised of atoms, okay? And they move at a certain speed, and that is why, to us, it is solid. You know, oh, you can knock on it. It's really hard. So because of that, the table is hard.
First of all, let me fix it. Let me fix what she says. Okay, so this is composed of atoms, but so is the liquid and so is the air around you.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is in what forms of movement can they do. Okay, that's the difference between all of them.
Mm-hmm.
See, in anything solid you see, the atoms are locked into a crystal structure, some type of repeating structure, okay, with an order and an everything. These are what you call crystal structures. Most solids, as far as the atomic table is concerned, solids naturally form a crystal structure, okay? Not only that's really what defines, in a sense, a solid is the loss of what you call degrees of freedom. So in a gas, right, a molecule in a gas or an atom in a gas, okay, can freely rotate around itself, move in all directions, up, down, left, right, what we call translational movements, rotational movements, and vibrational movements, okay? So if you have a molecule, let's say, right, let's say you take O2, oxygen, simplest chemistry, chemistry 101, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oxygen, which composed of two oxygen atoms, right? That's I don't remember the terminology.
H2O.
But the actual, what's it called? The element is composed of two atoms, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you call it the element. What you find in nature, okay?
It's
the molecule, fine. The molecule is composed of two atoms. Now, these in a gas, right?
Yeah.
In a gas, these two molecules have degrees of freedom, translation, so they can move. If you fix the molecule, right? Let's say you put, you drive a stake through the middle of the imaginary line connecting the two atoms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now you put that on a fucking system of axes and they can move without rotating, without anything. They can move left, right, up, down. You get me?
Wait, H2O is water.
And forward, backwards. So you have what you call this. These are translation. They're called the physics translational degrees of freedom. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
O2 is additionally, what else can the molecule do? It can rotate around itself, right? It can rotate in all directions.
Okay.
It can rotate around the axis that connects the two balls, but it can also rotate around any other axis, right? So any of the three spatial rotations that you could do, right, in any of the planes, you have three rotations, right? Three translation directions, three rotation directions. That's 7 degrees of freedom. Okay, that's 6 degrees of freedom. Okay, and then you have another degree of freedom, right? Another degree of freedom is vibration. Can they vibrate? Okay. Can this little, maybe the stick between the two balls is actually a spring and they can vibrate. Okay, which is true, by the way, they can. So, in gas, you have all these available degrees of freedom, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All these things can happen, all these types of movement. In liquid, you have some bonds between molecules, which removes the translation of degrees of movement. It depends on exactly how you define the bonds in liquids, but generally you lose some of the rotational and some of the translational degrees of movement, depending on how you define the link. Okay, in a solid, the only degree of freedom left is vibration. The only thing a solid can do, as far as the movement of atoms inside it, is vibrate. That's because it's held in a structure, like balls and springs. You know, that's what it looks like. That's what solids look like. So your teacher did you a bit of a
disservice.
Yeah, a bit of a disservice. So it's not really.
Or he just simply very much simplified how it works.
I mean, I would just describe it, if I was teaching it to a class, I would describe it as it's packed together so strong that the only thing left to vibrate. So there's no more distinction. That's why solids, by the way, are always, you call them by maybe, some solids like carbon, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't write carbon molecule, do you? There's no such thing.
No.
What is a carbon molecule? In a solid, you don't write it. You write C. That's it. Now you have different forms for carbon, right? You have carbon that is a diamond, but you have carbon that's graphite in a pencil.
Yeah.
The same carbon, right? Different crystal formations.
Okay.
One of them is the strongest substance we know, or one of the strongest substances. The other one smears like a fucking pencil. You can break it and snap it in half. Exact same substance, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Carbon. Oh, and another form of carbon is charcoal. So you have a bunch of carbons, right? They all have different formations. They all have different properties. They're all the same material. They're all the same solid. It's all about the difference in how they're arrayed.
Mm-hmm. How they're aligned against each other.
Yeah, exactly. So you can imagine stuff. And if I needed to explain solids, I would explain them as something that's so packed together that you cannot define a molecule anymore. It's just a repeating structure. It's so packed together that everything is connected.
Okay.
That's how I would define it.
Because my question to my teacher then was, well, what if, say, I'm using the mind because I don't know what the hell kind of mechanical thing I would have to build. So I'm just using the mind. So if I could figure out exactly how this vibrates, I could find something that moves this vibration and put my finger through. Because if all it is vibration, and I can somehow slow it down or obscure it, but your description of it all takes away that aspect completely. So my high school science teacher should have done a better job.
I mean, essentially for solids, actually you can a lot of the time break solids by vibrating them in the right frequency.
Well, yeah, that's what happens with glass.
I will invite you to YouTube where you can find people breaking glasses with their voices for fucking years on end. You can watch for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Just that. People breaking, doing this one note which they trained for. They click the glass, they find the right note, they repeat that note very loudly. Mm-hmm. That's a resonant note. Okay, the resonant note, if you keep on singing that note, then you're essentially, what resonance means, right, is it means the system is responsive to the wavelength or the frequency that you're giving. You're giving a certain frequency, and it matches the natural frequency of those springs and balls that I talked about. Yeah? So you have a solid. The solid is a massive springs and balls, but because it's a massive springs and balls, it has certain ways where it vibrates better than others. Okay? And if you vibrate, it's like trying. Okay, imagine. Let's make a simpler example. You're pushing a child on a swing. Okay. Mm-hmm. You want the swing to go higher, right?
Yeah.
You push at very specific times, right? Mm-hmm. You push only when the swing is closest to you, right? Exactly. That's when you give the strong push, and that's how you make it go higher in the next turn, right? Mm-hmm. You're applying the force. Essentially, the best thing for you to do would be to apply a force all the way, right? If you could do that, but you're a human, so you can't. So you're only doing it at one point. But essentially, you're applying your force at the same frequency of the swing, right? Mm-hmm. The swing completes one cycle every so often. That's exactly when you're giving it a shove. Okay, you're matching your own frequency to the frequency of the natural frequency of the system. And when you do that, you can increase the amplitude of the vibrations because you're essentially driving all the energy that you're providing gets transferred to the system almost perfectly. Once those frequencies match, there is perfect energy transition. That's what it means in the physics sense. Okay, and so when you take a glass and you sing onto that glass, right? You're essentially transferring the energy from your sound waves into the glass, where it becomes vibrations. The same vibrations that you emitted, simply transfer the energy to vibrating the atoms in the glass. Instead of the atoms in the atoms in the air perfectly collide. Essentially, when you sing a note, right, then you're shoving packets of air into the glass at the frequency that you're giving, right? That's exactly what a sound is. It's like a pack of air that arrives with pressure. It's like little pressure waves, okay? So it's up and down. The pressure, you're giving it pressure up and down, right? You're giving pressure and relieving pressure, giving pressure and then on and off, kind of like an oscillator, okay? And you're driving little bunches of little bunches of air into the glass, right? But you're doing it at just the right frequency. So whenever the glass moves back, right, it meets a packet of air coming and then it pushes it more, and then it pushes it more. And that packet of air just goes back 100%, right? The transfer of energy is like an elastic collision, okay? So all the energy of the pack of air is deposited into the movement of the glass. So what you're doing is really you're using the right frequency to match it to the frequency of the crystal, okay? And eventually the crystal breaks because the vibrations in the crystal become stronger than the bonds that hold this crystal structure together. It's too much energy going through the vibrational modes, and it cracks. And then a crack appears. Once the crack appears, the energy is released. That's the release of that vibrational energy. And once the crack appears, there's no longer a resonant frequency, or the resonant frequency is going to change, or there's no longer a resonant structure. Okay? It has to do with the shape of the glass. Not everything resonates the same way. Okay? Really what's happening is that the glass is actually inside the glass, that's where the waves get amplified, really. Okay? You're singing towards the glass, but the actual place where it gets amplified is by the glass itself is singing back to you. It's singing back into itself, by the way. Inside the middle, the cavity, that's where it's concentrated. Okay? But it's a resonant, it's you driving in the energy, which means that this thing is going to vibrate around this common center and then eventually pop. Okay? The whole structure resonates. But you have to give it the right frequency. So in really the same way, you can drive other systems if you just match the frequency correctly.
I was just thinking about what would you do to do that concrete? What kind of a voice would you need?
Not actually. It's from what I know, it's pretty low frequency stuff that cracks concrete. I mean, earthquakes and stuff are pretty low frequency, and they tend to tear concrete up. Large wavelengths tend to tear up these kind of structures as well. I mean, large wavelengths will also fuck up glass, but possibly.
So we put on some Barry White and we break buildings. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but most substances have a range of resonant frequencies, but the question is also the response. Not every structure responds the same way. A lot of crystal structures are actually doped with irregularities. So there's a lot of when I talked about solids, I'm talking about more in the chemical sense of a pure solid, less in the sense of like a brick of mixed up substance. When you mix shit up, things get different.
Oh, of course.
Okay? Because you're not mixing things up on the molecular level. It's like, think of it in a smaller level, it'll be like patches of this and patches of this. You're not making a new crystal structure. You're making different structures inside the same material. But I'm not an engineer. That's not stuff I can explain to you. I don't know enough. I have a friend who knows a lot about concrete, seriously, who knows a lot about concrete. He can probably tell you a lot more than me about that, but I don't know enough about
would be an interesting podcast, really.
I can tell you about resonant frequencies of crystals all day long. in general, most solids. I mean, resonance, by the way, also it doesn't mean just sound. Yeah. Why is something opaque versus why is something like one given color or another, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is also a matter of resonance. This is also a matter of only the right frequencies do stuff. Everything else gets,
something else.
lost. No, it's actually pretty interesting. I mean, the way that happens.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, that's one of the things we learned too little of in school, to be honest, was frequencies and wavelengths. All we got to know was, well, you have sometimes coherent light, and that's a laser, and that was about it. Instead of getting in depth like we do now, I may not understand it, but if I am to learn more and I hear these things, then I have what I call a passive knowledge of something.
Mm-hmm.
Then I read more and, oh, wow, that was what he was talking about. And now I start to understand even better because I have that little bit of passive knowledge. It's like learning a new language. If I learn a new language, I put notes on everything with what it is called in a different language, like the TV, computer, all this and that.
Mm-hmm.
I put those, and it becomes a passive vocabulary. I can't use it in the right way, but I know the words. As I learn grammar and how to use the language, I have the words already. Now I can structure them into something coherent. I'm so fucking smart. Oh my god.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking of, and I'm here being a little retard thinking of colors. This turned way too physics oriented. Now we're having a nice chat about philosophy, about stoicism, about people, and suddenly this turned into. I already talked physics, man. Let me say that.
Yeah,
That's why I left. I left because so I had to talk physics. So let's divert. No, it's not like
yeah. I'm gonna go back to stoicism
I can
because
do this for years, but I tend to believe that there will be plenty of conversation that we can divert to this at any point that we feel like.
exactly no reason to go off.
I can talk about this for days.
Hmm.
You can start with the Newtonian mechanics and move all the way up to quantum field theory.
And I can talk about. I had a poop while we were having a break.
Oh my god, man! Do you understand how much I can talk? I've had these weird poops. I can talk about poops longer than I can talk about physics. Okay.
Well, the last time we actually talked when we were playing Borderlands 2, we talked about having those weird shits where it feels really hard, and then it's just like a plug that goes out, and then kaboosh, you paint the entire bowl. That's what we were talking about.
Oh yeah. I remember. I've been having like these ones that feel like you're pooping out pieces of mushroom that you didn't eat. Like, like every time there's like something blocking it, and like this repeated, like I don't know what it is. It felt like I was firing some weird machine gun. Is that good enough? Did I do well?
It would be against the Geneva Convention, I am sure.
Which strain should I order? Which strain should I order? Which strain should I order?
Toss a coin.
Pineapple Express.
What are you doing?
Pineapple.
What are you doing? Are you ordering food online?
No.
Are you playing Dota?
I am not. I might order weed online.
Order what?
Weed online, man.
Oh, a weed connoisseur. Which kind do you prefer? Sativas or indicas?
Sativas in general, because I don't like falling asleep.
I don't know anything about weed, to be honest. I don't smoke. I've tried it like 3 times. No, 4 times, I guess. Same damn result. I get weird and I get very tired. The last time I felt like my heart was going to explode or something. It was very uncomfortable.
What was?
The feeling of smoking weed. Well, it wasn't weed, it was hash.
Oh.
And I just felt I forgot how to breathe and I didn't do it automatically, so I had to focus on breathing, which was weird. So I wrote down a note to my cousin with my address because he doesn't know my address, he just goes here. And I handed it to him and said, if something goes wrong, here's my address. And he was just smiling. He knew what the hell I was going through. But that's the effect it has on me. It's not pleasant. It's not fun. It's, and I don't think you can call it paranoia when I feel like I have to remember to breathe or I don't. I don't know if that is paranoid, but that was what I'm going through. So weed and meat, no, it's just not a good mix. I don't know why people get so not addicted but hooked on it because
because it has different impacts on other people as well. That's a very important characteristic of it,
Well, definitely, but when I describe it, some people, I get that kind of paranoia. I still say it's not paranoia.
I mean,
they get the paranoia too. Okay.
If you get the paranoia, okay,
I don't.
It's usually a decent enough sign that you generally have some anxiety in your life at that point. So the thing about weed is, if you are if you tend towards anxiety in some ways, even if you're suppressing it, weed is going to reveal it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Don't get me wrong, it can be used in a sense also against anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
But for that, you have to find specific strains, and not necessarily. Like, everybody's had their bad trips. Okay?
Mm-hmm. But every trip I get is a bad trip.
But if every trip you get is a bad trip, you shouldn't take it because obviously it doesn't agree with you.
Yeah, but here's the thing: I've only tried hash. I've not tried the leaf. So if I'm going to try anything ever again, it's going to be the leaf.
Oh yeah, no, that's very different. Dude, hash is like strong, man. Mm-hmm. Hash makes you want to sleep. It doesn't make you want to do stuff.
And what I want to try is the same feeling I get when I haven't smoked a cigarette in a long time. And I smoke the cigarette and I just get the biggest smile on my face and the world is kind of humming.
You can get that, but I can also tell that if you smoke nowadays weed that might be strong, like you just might get that feeling of like, yes, it's smiling, but also, I'm so high. I'm so high, I don't know what to do. Like the fact that you're like unfamiliarly high, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Can also contribute to it. Because sometimes it can just hit you and you'll be like, oh my God, I'm so high. I'm so high. I'm just so high. And it's not something bad. It's not like I'm seeing colors and stuff. It's just like, I'm like, I'm overwhelmed by being high, Mm-hmm. Just like,
I get it.
I'm overwhelmed, that's it. Like, just overwhelmed by being high. And you kind of start working, like freaking out. You don't want to be around people. So a lot of times, like I say, the way you smoke in the beginning is like you chill with friends, like a comfortable environment, where you get high and you play guitar. The worst that happens, you get like that feeling of like, holy shit, I'm so high. You just turn on something stupid on the TV, melt to it while fucking giggling like a retard and ordering some fucking weird munchies. Okay. It's like not thinking about what you order. Suddenly you wake up tomorrow, it's like, why is there like Haagen-Dazs ice cream and Thai food here,
Mixed together in the same plate.
Like sitting there, like, what happened, man? What did I think about? What did I do last night? It's not like an alcohol. What did I do? It's like, what did I do? How did this make sense? It's like clearly because you remember what you did. You're like, why did I do it though? Like I know I ate those two together. It's made perfect sense. Should I try it again? Will it be good enough stuff? That's what happens when you get too high, dude. There's no like, it's not like alcohol, dude. If you get too high, you go, No, man. If you get too high, we just go to sleep. Like, you get munchies and go to sleep. Mm-hmm. The only difference is sometimes when you get high, you can have panic and anxiety attacks. Those aren't get too high and go to sleep. Those are like, I'm not feeling good right now.
Yeah.
It might have to do with, I don't know what occasions you smoked before as well, but it might have to do with that as well.
Like, what was the environment? Netflix. No, I was watching Scrubs. You know Scrubs?
I love Scrubs. I fucking love that show.
Ever.
one of the best shows ever. Yes.
Oh, and Stargate. But that's not comedy. Though
Okay.
Richard Dean Anderson does make it comedy.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, it's a great show. But then you say, okay, so you just smoke. How did you smoke? Like a joint?
The problem also is I take.
How did you smoke? Did you smoke with a joint?
No, a pipe. We had a normal standard tobacco pipe, and he put the roasted tobacco in it, mixed with the hash to make it burn. You know, you flame the tobacco so all the nicotine goes out and all the other shit really gently. It smells really great, by the way. You roast it up and you mix the hash and the tobacco together, and you put it in a pipe, and then you smoke. And
tell me more. You know how many fucking? I think my fingers are still stained from the amount of fucking times I've done that, dude. We didn't have weed here. We had mostly hash until older. So I know what you mean. By the way, I think it's bullshit about the tobacco thing. I also know that. So I think it's a folk. It's a myth, urban myth.
We need to test it. You have to know some chemists and have them test tobacco.
No, I'm not gonna go through that. I know some chemists. I'm not gonna. So something I would have done. I would have done this in my bachelor's. You know what? Honestly, in my bachelor's, I would have done it. Like no, it's not worth it. I have too many things to do. So many things to do.
The only thing you need to do is tell them, do this shit, and I'll be happy. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough chemists. Like I'm saying, my bachelor's is retarded. Like I tried to do a triple bachelor's in chemistry, math, and physics.
Wow.
And so yeah, that didn't turn out. That's shooting over your head, you know. In the end, it's just physics and math because I suck at chemistry, so it's not that bad. But it wasn't almost. It was an almost. But what my point is, I had contacts in chemistry back then. I just don't have contacts in chemistry now. It's like even in solid things, like my contacts are fucking weirdos, man. In physics, I love those weirdos, man. I wouldn't have it any other way, man. I'm one of the weirdos, man. It's just like my own brand of weirdo.
There's one guy that I listen to on YouTube every once in a while because he does some very good debunking videos. And his YouTube name is Thunderfoot. And he debunks bad science. He's a nuclear physicist, as I remember. And he just looks into like Elon Musk's Hyperloop, and there was a self-filling bottle that will get water out of thin air. Essentially, it's just being a dehumidifier in a smaller scale. And he did all the math on it, and he said, well, to get half a liter of water from the air, you would have to spend, I think, 2 days running your bike to get this. And because of how water evaporates and how it condenses and all this shit, he did a 30-minute video. I loved it because he explains it so well in a way that dumb people like me understand it.
You call it dumb people. I don't think it's dumb people because generally dumb people don't choose to understand. Let's say I call it interested yet uneducated. Okay.
That's my life.
I mean, that's good. It means you're a curious person. You cannot be educated on everything. I say this I found myself saying this recently to a lot of people. Like a friend of mine and an old neighbor, she moved out. Then we were always friends, so still hang out. So last time I met her, she was talking about how she's like, I wouldn't say she's a nerd because she's not, but she likes astrophysics. Okay, not astrophysics, astronomy. She likes planets and shit in space, basically. The way she says it is, I like space. Okay,
I get it.
Comparing, she goes like, yeah, listen, I've always been so into it. I don't have anything. I never got, and I don't know it officially or anything. I try to explain like there's a difference, and I explain it to other people in the same time frame, which is, there's thinking that you're interested is one thing. Being interested in something is good and all, yeah. But then the fact that you don't actually understand it shouldn't make you feel stupid. There's a difference between being interested in something, i.e., wanting to understand what it's about, roughly, okay, to being interested in something enough to want to understand all the intricacies of it, finally enough in order to be able to work in that field, you know? You use the word stupid. I don't use the word stupid. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, you can be super interested in physics. I have a friend who sends me fucking papers and asks me to explain what they say, you know?
Yeah.
He doesn't have a degree in physics, right? Like, he doesn't have a degree in anything, actually. He's a computer guy, like, but he doesn't have a degree in anything. He's interested, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does it
Oh,
mean he's going to write a paper about it? No, that's what it means to be interested enough to know all the intricacies so I can write a paper about it. Because you can't write a paper about it. You can certainly have a conversation about, hey, I watched this. What does this mean? I want to understand this. This is, to my understanding, this is what happened, you know, and then you can, a lot of the time, if you have that conversation, then that's what makes people sometimes feel bad. It's like, okay, you're used to having that conversation and being the guy who understands it among your friends who don't watch the stuff, you know, who don't have an interest in it, right? And suddenly you're coming face to face with this guy who goes like, yeah, I'm interested. I was interested enough in this to make this my life, you know? Oh, shit, he must be smarter than... No, that's really not the case. Like,
when I say stupid, I think we need to include...
yeah, maybe we need to... I don't mean stupid. Like, when I hear
No.
stupid, that's what I... Like, you say stupid and I hear
Low
just
IQ.
like... Yeah, I hear low IQ and I'm thinking, no, he doesn't mean stupid. He means, you know, inexperienced. It means layperson. They call it layman, you know?
Yeah. But then a
Layman
layperson...
doesn't mean you're stupid.
No, a layperson should just be someone who is interested and has looked into it on a hobby level. And I haven't even looked into science on a hobby level. I mean, I did electronics when I was younger, learning how shit works when I was a kid. And you should see the contraptions that I built.
You're like, how the fuck did I do that?
Well, it was more about I made pulleys and whatnot, and I used electrical engines to essentially lift up a bag of chips. But
The man is a fucking engineer meant to be. What the fuck? That sounds like literally the child engineer. What?
And I had one of those little chemist sets, and
I know I had those too.
Yeah.
That's what got me started. I think I always hated physics throughout life. I hated physics and I hated math. I loved chemistry though because I had that set and that got me fucking hooked on chemistry.
It's so much fun. And I made a change color and I couldn't reproduce it. I wanted to show it off. I was so proud because I made something that wasn't supposed to happen from that set. Well, it can happen, of course, because it happened. But I introduced, I think, salt, standard table salt, and the solution turned pink, which I thought was the fucking bomb at the time. I went to school. I told my physics teacher, science teacher, chemistry and natural sciences, whatever. And I told him, "Oh, I made this. I want to show everybody that I made this." And I got up in front of the whole class and I started making it, and nothing happened. And after everybody had left and they were all rolling their eyes at me, and I was so embarrassed, he said, "Write down everything." And that was one of the most important lessons I got from that. Write down.
That's actually very smart. Write down everything. I completely agree. Write down everything. That's something I actually tell my students in the lab that. And they don't do it. And then that's why eventually they end up losing stuff because they just don't do it.
It is evidence, and you need that evidence. You need to show how you arrived where you did. And that is like epistemology. You know what that is, right?
Epistemology, the word is familiar.
Epistemology is the study of how you arrive at knowledge, at conclusions.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And that's
epistemology, yeah.
Yeah. So when you do, to me, in this sense of chemistry, when you write down things, you have to find out where did you go wrong. Jump off. That is your evidence. That is your
Document everything. That's Science 101. I try and pass that to my students.
Feel free to tell them my story. I
I
was
mean,
was the
no amount of stories will replace the simple experience of me telling them that, them not doing it, and then them losing some of the grade.
yeah.
Just
But
get you get burned and then you don't do it anymore, or you
what is
just
so important to remember
either that or you're retarded like me, and then you have no short-term memory, so you actually write everything down.
yeah. I
See,
write down
to me,
everything.
it was a matter of convenience. It was never a matter of like, oh, I need to document what I do. And I was like, no, man, I have had no short-term memory since way before I started smoking weed. It's only become worse since then. Okay, it's like when I was a kid, I had no short-term memory. Okay, like my brain was not in the last 20 seconds. It was like either hours ago or hours from now or anything that's not like,
But not in the present.
now in the present, in the short-term memory, what happened? Like, it's only gotten worse over time.
I tell
But
people that I won't remember what we just talked about. Well, I will, but you get my drift.
no,
I
I
won't
will.
remember
I'll
what I
remember
ate.
if the conversations were good enough.
Oh
Obviously, I
yeah,
remember what we
definitely.
talked about here.
But
But
remembering what I did yesterday, I don't know. But I can call up a conversation that I had 25 to 30 years ago and tell you word for word who said what in that conversation.
well, this
Precisely.
is why I do a lot of what I do with my notebooks, my trusty stuff. I was a waiter for quite some time, man, and
Yeah.
They would laugh about me because I would write I would fill up 3, 4 notepads every shift.
Wow.
Just notes. Like I would write everything for myself because I can't trust. Like if I go past the fucking table and they tell me, "Can I have a glass of water?" I can't trust myself to remember it once I pass a certain other person who asks me for this. You know?
Hmm.
No.
Oh, I get it.
Tuck, 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 tuck. Just always writing, always writing, always writing.
Yeah.
So I'm passing with plates and somebody asks me something while I'm holding plates. I'll be right back. Sorry, 1 second. Give the plates? Yeah, sure. If I remember to come back to the table who asked me for attention, by the way, which is another issue. No,
Okay.
just sometimes I will tell them like, please catch me back on the like mark me on the way back. I'm sorry, I have to get this. Whatever.
I had that when I was working as a chef. There were certain dishes I just couldn't, for the life of me, remember what went into them. I know how to make them. Everything is fine. But when I arrange them, you have, let's say, 4 different gravies. You have your bechamel, you have your sauce béarnaise, and whatever other gravies you have,
Mhm.
right? And I know the dish in and out, but I just can't remember what the hell to put on the plate. I failed so badly that the chef that I was working with said, "You're no good to me." I was just, what? No, it's so bad. But, if you ask me when I was off work and he said, "Well, what goes into this dish?" I'll tell you exactly what goes into it and how to arrange it. But the moment I had it in my hand, no. It's like when I do tests, when I do exams. I know everything, and then I go in and I can't remember shit.
You, my friend, sound like legit, and I say this without trying to analyze too much, but it might have to do with some anxiety stuff, man.
Yeah.
Not gonna psychoanalyze anyone, but like,
No, we need Iska for that.
no, we don't. Believe me, I love the guy, but sometimes it can be so full of like he's to the point. He has a sorry if you can't hear me. It's because I'm cleaning something in
Oh.
the floor. Just found a gigantic collection of dust hanging around,
Oh, dust is great. We have
pretending to be I don't know, pretending to be something it's not.
a chameleon. Well, actually, a chameleon isn't pretending. It is being exactly what it is, a chameleon. So there's no pretending there.
I will say though, I don't know if you can hear me from below my table,
I
but
can.
I will say that what you did say before about stupid versus layman. In a sense, calling yourself stupid is possibly better because you're less vulnerable to the Dunning-Kruger effect. So there is an upside to that, as long as you keep reminding yourself that you are a layman, in a sense, you're gonna be less impacted by what you call the Dunning-Kruger effect, which I guess you know what that is.
No, I don't know the Dunning-Kruger effect.
the
What is the layman's term?
less knowledge, the less experience and knowledge you have in a certain field, the more you think your level can be higher there. So essentially, you have people who don't know anything about a subject thinking they're experts.
Oh,
But
yeah.
self-proclaimed experts on the internet are essentially Dunning-Kruger.
Okay.
Oh, I've never learned anything about this subject, but I can definitely overrule, the conclusions of people who've spent their entire life studying this stuff because I read stuff on the internet,
Exactly.
and this makes sense.
And
It's like,
then you
yeah,
have
okay.
anti-vaxxers and all that shit.
Yeah, which essentially says, let me see the actual definition. Dunning-Kruger.
Oh, Dunning.
Kruger in the field of psychology is a cognitive bias in which people with low ability at a task overestimate their ability. Yeah?
Yep.
So it's a cognitive bias, basically. It states that your bias as to how able you are to do a task is basically related to
the imposter syndrome.
Sorry?
It's distantly
no, to your actual competence.
Yeah. But what I was talking when I say this was because you were talking about the imposter syndrome a while back.
Yes.
When you stand up and teach, and what the hell am I doing here? Because you know that you don't know shit. And those with Dunning-Kruger, they don't know that they don't know shit.
Well, it's because right now on what you call, if you look at Google, first thing that shows me is this thing. I'll send it to you. Copy image, and I'll send you the image on Discord. This is the image I randomly pulled up on Google. Thank you, Google.
Yeah.
Okay. Which has these very nice little annotations. Okay.
I love it. Peak of Mount Stupid.
Yeah. So one of the things that I know is that I was never at the peak of Mount Stupid. I was somewhere on the slopes of Mount Stupid, but I never fully peaked on the Mount Stupid. Now, the Valley of Despair is a very, very, very real thing. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you that the Valley of Despair has almost resulted in me not doing now. But I feel like I'm right now, maybe as far as this is concerned, on the slope of enlightenment, but I also have imposter syndrome, so I'm not exactly sure whether I'm actually going up the peak of Mount Stupid. So you see, from the Valley of Despair, you can go back either to the peak of Mount Stupid, right? Mm-hmm. Or to the slope of enlightenment. And it's not impossible that you're not certain. Even if I'm becoming more competent, it's kind of am I going back to the peak of Mount Stupid? I don't know.
We have a philosopher in Denmark, and he got on TV and all kinds of stuff because he was good at talking. And in his book, he wrote a very small book, and he was talking about something akin to this. When you know that you don't know, and you know that you know, and you know things that you don't, you know that there are things that you don't know, you know that there are things that are unknown. And because of a quote from some American vice president, if I'm not too mistaken, and it sounded like gibberish, but he's a philosopher, so he looked at it and said, well, it's a very real thing that there are known unknowns. Then there are unknown unknowns, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to go into it. And I just like how it tangents what we're talking about, and it reminds me of that book that I read. It's pretty nice, and I love this peak of Mount Stupid.
Peak of Mount Stupid.
I so love that. And I think I'm somewhere halfway between peak of Mount Stupid and Valley of Despair. And
see, the thing is that as long as you keep calling yourself stupid, I feel like you're never actually going to reach a peak of Mount Stupid.
But I also feel like I'm looking over at the slope of enlightenment, and I see what a fucking lot of work No.
Yeah. Yeah. See, the valley of despair really is when you start your actual, like if you were to follow the path of a physicist, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the path of a young physicist, I got to skip that because I wasn't a young physicist. I just came into physics later in my life, so I got to skip the peak of Mount Stupid. But a lot of them come from Mount Stupid because they start knowing nothing, but they get really interested in something. They start understanding it, okay, and they reach the peak of Mount Stupid. Not when the average population would reach them. This is like average population stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But the peak of Mount Stupid is right before they start learning the subject itself. Okay, and they're like, "Oh, I have fundamental insight," and then you go into your physics bachelor's degree, right? And the slope is even more than what they show you here. Okay, it's like the valley of despair is very it's a slope. You don't even have a slope. It's just a fall. It's like you're there the first fucking week, and you're like, oh my god, I don't know anything. So what the fuck am I doing here? And this is why 50% dropout rate is a thing at physics bachelor's degrees. And then afterwards, start a very slow climb. Well, you stay in the valley for a bit, going back and forth. Like they don't show you how much time you spend to achieve each step in competence, right?
Well,
but then you slowly, like you said, it's so much work and heartache to do to try and go on the slope.
That is the same thing for everybody, for every thing you can do.
Yes, I agree. This is why this is competence and not physics. This is like competence. This is an effect which has to do with the cognitive bias in doing a task, any task.
Yeah.
If I look at something and think, oh, this looks easy, right? That's because I'm biased, because I'm at the peak of Mount Stupid, right?
Exactly. And that's what they, in the States, you have, I think it's at college or high school that you're called a sophomore. And sophomore comes from Greek meaning a wise fool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So,
nice.
That's around peak of Mount Stupid.
Nice.
So I
yeah, it has to do a lot with like people seeing physical activities. Like you can use this for like, you know, football fans, right? This is like classic. It's a classic football fan that you see there right now. You know, as long you're a fan, you're at the peak of Mount Stupid. It's full of fucking football fans. Oh my god, this fucking player! How did they do this? I know better. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. I put you on that field, you'll pass out in 3 minutes, throwing up on the sidelines. Like legit heaving before you pass out in your own throw up.
Exactly, and you need a paramedic.
Yes, that would be the valley of despair, my friend. But you never got to go to the valley of despair because you're happy at the peak of Mount Stupid.
Yeah.
See, the peak of Mount Stupid is actually a really happy place.
It's very warm there. I hear they have palm trees and everything. They serve drinks.
I can tell you that this little Dunning-Kruger effect is part of the reason why I legitimately, generally in life, hide my profession, dude. Like, I don't tell people what I do.
Yeah.
Because whenever I make that mistake, I find that there are way too many people. Like, the probability of the person I'm talking to being on the peak of Mount Stupid is way higher than I think. I thought physics wasn't interesting to people. Apparently, people watch some fucking show on History Channel and suddenly they're on the peak of Mount Stupid. They're reinventing Einstein for me. I'm like, nigga, what? The fuck? Do you even, like, fucking blasphemy ass shit? Fucking flat earth motherfucker, what?
Flat earther. Fucking love it.
Yeah, you guys got all fucking figured out, yo. I wonder how they never let them in on the conspiracy if they got all figured out, man.
Yeah.
They don't die, they don't vanish, nothing. Just nobody seems to give a fuck.
I as far as I know...
No, except the one guy who built a homemade rocket to prove the Earth is flat and showed you how good it is to be at the peak of Mount Stupid. You know that? You know that? Seriously, I'm not even joking.
Well,
there's like a really famous flat earther who decided he's going to build a rocket. Huh?
A steam-powered rocket, yeah.
I don't fucking know. He ended up basically going on that rocket to disprove shit and, you know, homemade ass fucking junkyard rocket. But this is safe for travel, man. Man. my friend, I'll just bring over my shotgun. Sorry. And that guy, when he was up there, went from the peak of Mount Stupid to the bottom of the Valley of Despair in the fastest decline ever seen.
He went up,
Like,
oh shit.
he spent so long at the peak of Mount Stupid, but he's never looked to the valley. He doesn't even know where there's a valley there. And finally, the reality just like came crashing. Valley.
Well, what we have with flat earthers, most of them, if not all, not all, but 90% of them are religious. So
I wonder how that comes to be.
Well, they have authority. They have divine authority in their knowledge. So the
Actually, you'd be surprised how many flat earthers are not actually religious people, but people who used to be religious.
Well, it came from...
Which is the worst, by the way, because they essentially haven't lost anything that made them religious, fanatically religious in the same place. They just put it somewhere different. And now they're trying to use logic for it because they got disappointed by God because their imaginary friend failed them. So now they turned into their new imaginary friend who brought the world a lot of good stuff, which is science. And then they started to say, well, friend, actually you're wrong and manipulated. But never mind.
The leading theory here is that flat earthers, they started out as a joke. Mm-hmm. They really did. It started out as a joke, and then it just gained momentum. And it's really hard to stop something that has momentum. And people jumped on board.
I wouldn't scoff at that estimate. It sounds like a likely enough explanation. Like this can happen around it.
Mm-hmm. But a lot of people are talking about this, and most who follow how it started agreed that it started out as a spoof, that they were making fun of shit, and then people who are on the peak of Mount Stupid jumped on board because that fit right in with their worldview, and they gained popularity. So now they have a book of fantasy that backs them up, the Bible, whatever religion they're into, that supports a flat Earth, and a lot of people in their own echo chambers, who then supports everything here, and that's how it got started and how it became what it is today. And the guy who built his own steam-powered rocket, which I think is a feat on its own, and I
think what he did is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You know why it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard? If he had even a rudimentary understanding of how he wanted to disprove it, he would understand he doesn't need a rocket. There's a way simpler way without leaving the ground to do it.
Yeah.
Well, actually, there are multiple very simple ways to do it.
Well, who was it that used 2 sticks and watched the shadow on the ground at a certain time?
Some Greek guy.
Yeah, some Greek guy. He found out. Well, you go 1,000 kilometers that way, and just tell me where the hell the shadow is, and that way they found out, oh, the Earth is round. It has a curvature.
Yeah, it's not 100%, but yes, I agree. But you can do it in an easier way. You can do it even a cooler way, in a way that unilaterally disproves it, right?
Okay. Tell me.
If the Earth is flat, okay, the sun is not far, okay? Mm-hmm. The sun is close in all these models, right? The sun cannot be far from the Earth. No, never mind. Otherwise, you can't explain day and night and whatever. Okay, so essentially, your sun is fixed. It doesn't even matter actually how far it is, but it's fixed at some point in the sky, right? Yeah. Rotates or whatever the fuck. Yeah. Okay, if it's fixed at an angle to a disk, right? Mm-hmm. Then, by all means, what you should see if you dig 3 holes and look at the shadows on the holes, you should see them line up according to those angles. Okay, you dig them at 3 different places and you'll get 3 different angles. Mm-hmm. Okay, simple, because the sun is fixed. Look at a fixed time when the sun is not moving. Look at all these 3 different bits and measure the distance of shadow. Okay, use any intricate technology you want for it. Okay, great. Do it when the sun is like high in the sky, middle of the day situation. Okay. In fact, line up one of the wells, right, with the center of the sun, okay? And look at the way the shadow height is. If it's a sphere and the sun is far, then the light is coming as though it's a straight line. It will give a certain pattern of shadow. If it's not a sphere, and the light is coming from a close source, then it will give a different pattern of shadow. Compare different pattern of shadow, easy.
It sounds a bit more convoluted than just having two sticks.
Yes, I agree, but the two sticks people poke at. This is a way more sturdy experiment to show this.
Yeah, but they should try.
Because the flat earthers are strong, they're retarded, so they poke at that experiment about various stuff. I don't remember because I disregard their arguments in 2 seconds, but no, I definitely agree that you can do the two, the one the Greeks did because the Greeks were actually smart. But you're not talking to smart people here. You're trying to convince retards. They're gonna need some bigger guns.
It's just amazing. Also, when they see evidence, they don't believe it, and that's because they don't come up with it themselves. And I get that. It's like being a kid. If my parents said don't do that and that will happen, and I said no, I will find out on my own. And I have a scar near my knee where a nail went into the bone, pretty much, for what is that, 10 centimeters, ripped open my flesh because my parents knew nothing. I was 6. I knew everything. Maybe 5. I don't think it was.
Yeah, I agree. That's a peak of Mount Stupid. It's a delusional bias. So you know nothing, and therefore
I found out on my own that was a very bad idea. I also learned a little bit about physics, but oh, by the way, you need to learn. Hear this. There was not a paper, but someone wrote somewhere that males have a better understanding of physics fundamentally because they can stand up and pee and play with trajectory of a liquid.
Wow, that's far-fetched, man.
Yeah, it was just when I heard it was what?
That's
Say what now?
I guess from the trajectory aspect, I can fully agree. Like, it did give me some trajectory practice early on in life. I mean, I guess you could argue that like maybe boys are generally better at throwing than girls, early on because of the early trajectory practice. But from that to fluid mechanics and physics, I don't really know, man. I mean, that's not
actually
that.
Mythbusters tested out throwing like a girl, and they found out that girls were more accurate than boys due to the way they throw things.
No, that's because they don't know how to throw things. Believe me, I've been taught at school how to throw stuff, and it was very easy. Everybody was good. It was easy.
Yeah, but you use soft movements like that, you can hit pretty accurately.
These guys are taught how to throw footballs.
Yeah.
This is fucking America, right? They throw the weirdest shaped fucking object ever.
Do you know what's called a football?
A ball that you hit with your foot, yes, I agree.
No, do you know why it's called a football?
Oh. Because you hit it with your foot sometimes.
No, because that doesn't make sense. You only hit it sometimes with a foot. Your foot is very seldom into it. It is because it is 1 foot long.
Nice.
That's why it's called football.
Nice. I won't forget that one.
It's true. That's why it's called football. It has to be 1 foot long.
I believe you. I say I won't forget that one. That's why it's American football. It's literally a ball that's 1 foot long. Okay. Anyway, it's really weirdly egg-shaped, okay, which makes the throwing of it an interesting feat, okay, but not applicable to throwing most objects, which generally would be more round, okay? Like if I were to pick up something random and try and throw it at somebody, I would either pick up something that looks like a knife, but that's because I'm retarded and practiced throwing knives for a lot of time in my life, okay? And so I can literally pick up the scissors I have right now and spear them and spear my door with them.
Don't do that.
I won't. I already did that in my previous apartment. That was fine. I mean, dude, I had a roommate when I lived in Jerusalem. He had throwing knives. And I'm like, why the fuck do you have throwing knives? And he's like, a friend bought them to me at some point in life. And I'm like, do you even know how to use them? He's like, no, wait, what? You know how to use them? And I was like, yeah, bring that little wooden board, put it up there on the door. All right, let me show you. Beep, beep. It's like fucking. He's like, what the fuck, dude? Like, yeah, man, I was into martial arts as a kid. Like, I was specifically, I like throwing knives. It was actually a cool feat.
It's a cool thing when people can do it. On YouTube, who has a channel where he throws knives. That's what he does, or axes. Anything that can be thrown as a weapon.
I only throw. Yeah, there are people who make this alive, man. I don't make this alive. You know, I miss a lot, but I can also hit. So, you know, for me, as far as I'm concerned, like if I'm at like a 70% hit rate, I essentially have a good enough gauge. Okay, so when you throw a knife, essentially, you either I throw a knife from the blade. Okay, that's the way I was taught to do. Okay. I know people throw it from the hilt a lot as well, but I throw it from the blade. Okay.
Okay.
And basically in a grip. Huh?
You put a spin on it.
So yeah, there has to be a spin on it. Yeah. So there has to be either you. So when you throw it like that, you either get a half spin or a spin and a half. Okay. That's your distance measure. So for really far away things, you do a spin and a half. When you go up to a certain range, you kind of plan for a half spin, and after that you do a spin like that, 1.5 spins. So it's very hard to do an effective 1.5 spin at short range, but it's way more likely to succeed at larger range than half a flip. Okay, it'll deliver more power as well. But I've always thought to myself, like, are these kind of knives, like, if I was ever in a real situation, would they be, you know, would they make the difference? Probably not, man. Like,
no, they wouldn't.
Like maybe if I hit somebody's eye by some chance, it's about it.
Yeah, hit the eye socket just right, so you go in through the little soft piece behind the eye socket.
No. I mean any good hit around the eye would work. Doesn't matter. Any good hit around the eye would work. I guess obviously a good hit on the throat. A good hit in the throat is also going to
lethal
do
if you hit just right.
Like, yeah, but I'm thinking to myself, right, in terms of throwing something, in terms of generally, like that's the same way as they teach you in the army, right? You don't go for headshots, dude. Like, you don't aim for the head. The head is the smallest target that moves around a lot when somebody moves. You aim for the torso, dude.
Okay.
Torso is where most of the shots land, you know?
Oh, definitely.
So, I'm thinking, let's say somebody's mugging me or something, I don't know, and I just happen to grab a knife that's nearby and successfully throw it at him, okay? I will not aim for his head, okay? I will aim for roughly somewhere in his chest, right?
Yeah.
The chance of it hitting him in the eye, minute. The chance of it hitting him in the throat, maybe. But overall, if it hits the chest, most times it won't even stick. And if it sticks, it'll stick in the stomach, and that's muscle. It won't get to any organ or anything.
No,
it won't do any damage, you know? There's not enough force behind the throwing knife. There's just not enough force.
No.
It doesn't get buried like the same, you know, it's not a movie like, oh, suddenly a knife is buried all the way to the fucking hilt.
No, it needs to be over, I think, 500 grams.
Don't get me wrong. No. It can do a lot of that. You can bury, in a person, you can definitely bury a knife to the hilt in the same force, using the same force I use for practice on wooden boards. So I would sink it a good 2.5 centimeters into a solid wooden board. Like a good, not maybe 2, maybe 1.5, 2. 1.5, 2 in a wooden board, man, on soft tissue, that's going deep. If you hit a bone, different case, right? Which again, body shots, there's a lot of bones in the body area, man. If you hit a chest bone, you're not getting in there, dude. You're just fucking scraping him and that's it. You're not even sticking it, you know? Like, it's only going to stick if it lands on soft tissue and mostly not that muscled deep tissue. So maybe softer size, maybe. What?
Solar plexus between the ribs.
No, between the ribs is like the hardest muscles you have in the body. Some of the strongest muscles you have. Yes, you have intercostal muscles. It's actually super hard to stab somebody to the heart. If you want to stab somebody through the heart, you do it from the side, from like around the armpit. That's the best way to reach the heart with a stab. because the rib cage itself is a pretty protective structure, and there are muscles in between each of your ribs, really strong muscles. Actually, have you ever eaten ribs?
Yep.
Not human rib. Okay, why is there something to eat on the ribs?
It's meat.
Yes, and meat is?
Meat.
Muscle. Yes.
Is
When
all
you eat
meat
meat, you're
muscle?
eating muscle. Yes, all meat is muscle.
Because then...
That's the definition of you eating the meat. The parts in the meat that's not meat are either inner organs, that's not muscle, right?
That's awful, yeah.
Blood, that's, yeah, exactly, offal. That's not awful. I know what you said. OFFAL. That's awful, yeah. So that's not meat. Bones, that's not meat. Sinew, not meat. Cartilage, not meat. Fat, not meat. You know, you feel me?
Yeah.
Like, what is the meat part of your food? It's the muscle.
I have chef training, so this is new to me. Because when we talk about meat, there is meat and there is muscle. And if you want the best meat, it needs to have muscle in it, which means rump. That's the best piece of meat you can get because of the muscle. There's movement.
Now I'm confused. Yeah, because usually people encompass meat as in fat and muscle.
No.
Usually it's a ratio to fat and muscle. Or it's a ratio. Okay, it's maybe the ratio of what type of muscle fibers you have.
Okay.
There are two types of muscle fibers. There are ones that are, I don't fucking remember biology well enough. This is so. There's two types of muscles. One type of muscle is like.
Here we go. Meat is mostly muscle tissue from an animal. Most animal muscle is roughly 75% water, 20% protein, and 5% fat, carbohydrates, and assorted proteins. Muscles are made of bundles of cells called fibers. Each cell is crammed with filaments made of two proteins, actin and myosin.
Yes.
So that didn't really answer the question, did it?
It did not. I think when they meant muscle, they meant a specific, like they just had a specific word they meant. But essentially, man, meat is muscle. You eat muscle. You eat muscle and fat.
Okay.
Your body doesn't have the infrastructure to get advantage from many other. I mean, the offal you can actually definitely, it's definitely edible. But if you try to eat bones, dude, your body doesn't get anything.
Well, we can't digest.
Or cartilage or some shit. It can't digest. Long story short, meat is muscle. How did I get into this? This is my short-term memory going rogue on me.
But then a fish should be meat because muscle.
Yes, and fish are
not meat.
Almost entirely muscles.
Exactly. So it's not really meat, is it?
No. What it's... I mean, you call it fish, but it's essentially fish meat.
Yeah, but we also call it meat from fruits.
I mean,
and if we go for seafood,
yeah, true. You call it the meat of a fruit. That's true, and that's, I guess, maybe has to do with it. But when I say meat, that's what I meant. Okay, I meant muscle fiber.
God damn, we're getting
so I was. Yeah, so I meant like muscle. So how did that have to do with meat? Oh yeah, ribs. As I said, if you stab somebody in the ribs, right? The same reason there is, like, ribs is something that you have to cook for quite some time, right? For the meat to get tender. It's because they're very strong muscles, dude, in ribs. Have you ever made a rack of ribs, man? It takes time. It's a slow cook.
Oh yeah, it's 3 hours.
So that's because the muscles are very strong. There's like those types of muscles that takes time to break down. So the muscle, and it has to be, dude, because you need to breathe. And breathing happens when your lung cage expands. How does your lung cage expand and contract? It has muscles. Mm-hmm. So there are muscles in your back and your diaphragm pulling it, and then there's little muscles. Yeah, but there are also muscles in between your ribs. Have you ever had that feeling that like something's stabbing you, like a stabbing pain?
Yeah.
Whenever you breathe in, right? There's like a stabbing pain, right? that's not a heart attack. That's one of your muscles in between your ribs getting caught. Like that's just like it's a pulled intercostal muscle. That's it. You just pull the muscle in between. They're non-voluntary, the muscles between your ribs. Okay? You don't get to control one individual one. You get me?
Yeah.
They just operate as you move. It's not that you can do this and this with them like the same way you would use your arm muscle or your leg muscle, your voluntary finger muscles, right? So stabbing somebody to the heart, not through the front, never through the middle, by the way. The middle is the most protected part. Like if you try and stab somebody in the middle of the chest, dude, most of the time your blade is just gonna fucking bounce off. If you tap the middle of your chest, can you feel the fucking bunch of bone in there? Yeah? All that place where all your chest bones meet together. See that place? You don't pierce that place. If anything, dude, that's a place you hit with a hammer. Your old Viking ancestors, the ones with the hammers, man, you know? That's where you aim the hammer to, dude. That's the place you want to break. That doesn't deal well with breaking. It deals very well with something trying to pierce it, you know? If you try and pierce it with a rapier, it'll fucking bounce right off. You'll scratch your opponent at the most, yeah? But if you stab somebody from the side, where the muscles are spaced out far more, or from the armpit, the most open route to the heart, by the way, is through the armpit. Armpit and down. That's how you stab somebody.
And today we learned how to kill people.
No, I'm sorry, martial arts stuff. I mean, it's not just martial arts in the Israeli army.
You were in the army? No, you weren't.
Mm-hmm.
You were?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't trained for this. That was never my profession, my friend. I am a nerdy guy, but I did enough martial arts to know this kind of stuff. That you don't...
Okay, I'm trying to looking. I was looking for is muscle meat, and it says, well, meat has muscle in it.
But they were talking about different muscle fibers, or they were talking about muscle and fat, most likely.
No, it's really...
Because generally when you're selecting meats, it's about what type of muscle fiber you have and how much fat is interlaced in the muscle fiber.
What's the difference? And then it goes into nuance and William Shakespeare. I didn't want a definition in language. I wanted a medical definition. So, do you know any medical professionals?
Yes.
Okay.
A lot.
Next time we talk, ask them.
Ask them what?
Is muscle meat, or is meat its own substance?
They will tell you what I told you.
Okay. So
I come from a lineage of doctors, man. I know this shit.
Okay. You can help me out in my next Witcher video. Where
the difference between I guess what they meant. These are guesses. I don't know what they meant when they talked to you about it. But what you and me call meat, okay, is muscle fiber, okay, muscle cells, muscle tissue, okay, which has two, I guess, main forms of muscle. I don't remember their exact names. I think they're called white and red fibers, but I don't exactly know.
Red and white meat.
They have to do with some of them work anaerobically and some of them work aerobically, which means some of the muscle cells there use oxygen and some of them don't use oxygen. Okay, and the mix-up between those two has to do with exactly which type of muscle you have. It has to do with the how the fibers are laid out, how long the fibers are, which type of fibers, what's the ratio between different types of fibers, how they're interlaced. All those things contribute to what you define as meat for a given purpose. See, rump steak is good for something, but it's not going to be good for everything. If I want to make ossobuco, I won't use fucking rump steak.
No.
I'll use a piece of thigh with a bone in. You know? Why would I do that? Because the fibers there are different than the fibers in the rump steak. Because the rump steak would be good for quick cooking, right?
No.
But if I try and... But what will happen if you try and...
Rump is at least 3 hours because of the muscle. If I cook... what are they
okay, fuck it. So let's say I take a back muscle. like some fucking, some random, I don't know, not fillet necessarily, but like, New York strip or whatever, right? Whatever, New York strip or whatever. Any of those muscles, any of those other muscles, okay? That, I put that for a long, slow cook, and the thing is destroyed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what makes the same animal, the same muscle in a sense, right? The same animal's muscle tissue. One of them is good for slow cooking, one of them is good for a steak, right?
It depends on the muscle.
It depends on the type of muscle, exactly. The composition of the muscle itself. Some of them need longer to break down. The ones that are long and slow and stuff, these are like tough muscles. If you try and cook them, you know what happens when you try and seal one of those meats, right? And they just go all fucking, they clamp up and they become like the fucking toughest thing in the world. And you're like, will you ever be soft? Yes, it will. In after 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
And 3.5 hours is slow fire that will relax the muscle fibers enough.
Let's see here. Translate. I know this because I want the Danish first. Please give me Danish. Thank you. And I want, yeah, that's good. Let's see here. Gizzards. A gizzard is a muscle that birds have to break down food, seeds and stuff like that. And they take at least, at 90 degrees Celsius, they take at least 3 hours. That's when you go and check if they're good. And if not, you continue to cook them. And the scale goes basically that also a gizzard is different than because it's from a bird, I guess, or its function. It is different from the muscle you'll get from an ox, pig, whatever. Is slightly different because when you cook a muscle rump steak, for example, that you do a slow roast of at 150 degrees, and you put in, your vegetables and wine or water, whatever you use. At 3 hours, it will be moist. And ladies, I know you love the word moist.
Moist.
Yeah,
moist. Fucking moist. Let's take a moment to enjoy the word.
Moist. Okay, anyways. So, but after 3.5 hours, it will be dry. Oddly enough, the meat will be dry, and then you just cook it longer and it will be moist again. So it has transition periods, and it depends on temperature that you use. But in general, after 3 hours, you will have moisture in the meat or in the muscle that you're cooking. And if you go longer, it will dry out, but it will somehow magically gain moisture again. You just need to cook longer. And that's the trick behind slow cooking. Now you know. Isn't that interesting? Silence. When I edit this, I'm going to put in some crickets.
I'm thinking about food now because all this talk has made me hungry, and I realized that, I know it sounds like an old chorus, but I think I haven't eaten in like a day and a half or two.
What?
I think I haven't really eaten in like a day and a half.
Why? I
don't know.
Just didn't feel like it?
I was trying to think if I ate or not.
Are you on a diet?
No. I just sometimes I had my birthday last week and I just spent the entire weekend eating. And I just wasn't hungry afterwards. I felt like I don't want to eat ever again. And
what is happening with Iskav? Because we need him in our conversations. We need Iskav. What is happening with him?
I don't know. I haven't talked to him a couple of days. Last time we met was a week ago.
Because he said he was dating. Is that true?
Yeah. At least last I heard. Yeah.
He said he
possibly finally someone who's not completely, neurotic from not neurotic from round one. Might be neurotic afterward. At least not. At least this time it's not obvious. So that's a step up. Really step up. No, she seems chill. Like she seems like chill. That's what I mean. I'm joking, of course. She actually seems chill from what he said.
Okay, because I talked quite a bit with his other girlfriend. That didn't go too well.
Who, Natalie?
No. I don't want to mention names. This is going on the internet, so I don't want to put out names. But it's not Natalie.
Oh, you can edit all this shit out. Dude.
Well, still, I don't want to edit too much.
Anyway,
yeah. So that didn't end well. His the relationship.
Oh no! I know which one. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow! Why did I think of Natalie? Who the fuck? That's irrelevant. Yeah, no, my brain. Yeah, okay, sure. I haven't met her ever.
Oh, we gotta know.
Ever.
We need to know these things. We
I
need.
haven't even talked to her ever.
We need evidence. Basically, is what I'm saying.
Of what?
That he is dating. That he's finding a new girlfriend. Because until he presents evidence, it's just something that he's saying. And playing.
He hasn't talked to me about coming over to play Nick Drake songs. Then you might be doing stuff.
Well, playing Path of Exile.
Mm-hmm.
So, is he playing Path of Exile or is he dating? We need to know. These are important things.
Why not both? Why not Zoidberg?
I was talking with a friend I have. He lives 50 meters from where I live. We're in the same building.
I was looking for. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. What?
No. He started. This friend in the building.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Well, he's looking for a girlfriend, and he was dating someone. I not go into it, but I told him you need a gamer girlfriend because he's a gamer. If his girlfriend isn't a gamer, it's not going to be a happy relationship because you do very different things. A non-gamer will want to go out, will want to be close, will want to do a lot of things, which is just not for a gamer. It's each have their own computer. They may play together, but it's not going to be long walks.
I don't know. I think even if you're a gamer, you should probably, especially if you're a gamer, in a sense.
Yeah, but I'm saying
that is a good thing to have in your life. Like
definitely, but
I was dating this girl, dude, my last girlfriend. I broke up with her like 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And dude, I'm a lazy house animal, and yet it was fun. It was really fun going out, like it wasn't about. I didn't, let's say, sacrifice the games so much as this is not something that has to damage your gaming hobby. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of should go along with it because it helps in a lot of ways. It helps. I know a friend of mine who has a gamer girlfriend, and these guys don't leave the fucking house. Like they're like becoming together.
They're becoming
a pair. They're becoming a pair of these creatures that when they leave the house they act all scared. Legit is like a level of stress, involved with leaving the house, dude.
Yeah, well, you do need to leave the house. I'm not contesting that in any way, shape, or form. You need to go for walks and all
if
these
you're
things.
a gamer and if she's a gamer and then you guys sit together and you're playing games and you're like, it's it's a comfort zone, dude.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about is you can have an active life, no problem. But if you want to be happy and you are a lifelong gamer like I am, you need her to be that too, a gamer.
Or you find one that's just cool with you, liking to play games.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
I do. My sister and her boyfriend are a perfect example. He's right now spamming CS:GO, right?
Yeah.
And we used to play. When they were started dating, he used to sit with me and my friends. We used to play for fucking hours on the consoles and shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
He loves playing games. Yeah, he didn't do it because life and shit, And life sometimes prevents you from having the time to play games, right?
Definitely.
And she's the kind of person who doesn't. She's not a gamer, right? She never sat and played games on a computer or anything like that. Would she pick up a remote on a Nintendo and play Mario Party? Definitely, do. They sit with their friends, right? With another friend of theirs and his girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
For literally, they sit there every Friday and they have a session of Mario Party. That's like one of their hangouts.
Yeah,
And they're
that's
not,
sweet.
dude. But that's my sister, and she's not a gamer.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to find a gamer. Like, you just have to find a girl that has a cool mindset of like it's fine to have fun in multiple ways, and playing games is one of them.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to always be playing games or into it, you know?
My point here is just that it would be someone who gets you.
Yeah,
And
it needs to be someone who gets you.
Yeah, and it's someone that understands your fascination with games. You play Dota and you do that for many hours. I am a bit more diverse. I like playing story-rich games, Dragon Age, Mass Effect, all that kind of shit. I really enjoy that, and for me, it would just be a joy to have someone to share that with.
I completely agree. I completely agree. I think that doesn't have to be a girl who's generally already a gamer. It just has to be someone who's open-minded.
Well, she would have to play the games to know the story, and that way you can share the
That's not necessarily true. She can literally like if it's about the story and about her participating and having fun in this, have her watch you play. This can believe me, people can watch games as though they're a movie, dude. Like games nowadays are so good that they feel like you're watching a fucking movie.
It's just my thing.
As long as she's involved in it, but I don't think. I mean, I get that you want to share this, and I think if you share the passion that you have about it, it will come through in her wanting to at least participate in, seeing what it's about.
Yeah. Well,
now, it's different between that and if you're going to some fucking cosplay conventions. I don't know what level of gamer that is and what level of dedication you have to games in general.
Cosplay is something different entirely.
Yeah, what I mean is I like Dota. Do I have like fucking memorabilia of Dota in my room? I don't, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do I have? I like playing games. Do I have gaming memorabilia in my room and everything? No, I don't. It depends on what level of let's say devotion you have to the subject called game, right?
Oh yeah.
Do you have artwork on your walls? From games.
I don't have shit, but that's mostly a money issue. And the things I would want.
Would you want to have artwork for games? If you had to choose the artwork to decorate your apartment, would you choose artwork from games?
I prefer.
You choose memorabilia for games. Would you choose you know what I mean by gamer house, right?
Yeah. But
you choose to have that. Is that something you want? Is that something that with the fuck girlfriend, right? Girlfriend or no girlfriend, feels good for you to be living in?
Mm-hmm. But I in general don't like things on my walls. I like them bare. I like there being an echo in my apartment.
Okay, but you get what I mean by that, right?
Yeah. But
when I ask about the level to which you're giving someone a tip for a game, not even for you, like for your friend who's like for whom you tipped to find a gamer girlfriend, does he have that? You know what I mean?
His life is computers and games. That's his life, pretty much. He's a 3D animator. Well, he's becoming a 3D animator. He's going to school for it right now. He's 2 years older than I am. He's been doing computer stuff all his life, a lot of gaming, but he's also, the kind that goes to raves and shit like that. So it's a good balance between gaming and so on. But I was talking with him about this thing, and he said the happiest he ever was with a girl was a girl that sat down and played the game with him. And they could talk about the game. It just made him feel, I guess, understood is what we're all looking for, but also accepted in what we do. And when another person does that with you, it creates a stronger bond in that way. So that's why I told him find a gamer girl, because, well, he had one before, and that was the happiest he ever was. So
in that sense, yeah, for sure. In that case, yeah, because like you said, for him, it seems to be a very, very, very central part in life.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if I found a girlfriend that didn't care for games at all, then she wouldn't probably understand my not devotion, my interest in games. I do run a YouTube channel where I do playthroughs, well, let's plays of Fallout 4 and The Witcher. And they take a long time to complete. You put a lot of effort into it, a lot of time, a lot of energy goes into these games. So it's not my involvement with games is more than just I enjoy playing them. I put considerable time into it. And
Okay,
myself.
To that I agree, and that's something like you said, it's something that if you're with someone, and she has to accept this is something that you enjoy. You can't, if she looks down on you for that, it's a completely different case, and maybe you shouldn't be together.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't necessarily have to be, in my opinion, something she partakes. For your friend, maybe, if it's something that encompasses that much. I mean, to me, it's an important part of my life. And I've spent like literally over 10,000 hours playing Dota, actively playing the fucking game. But was it ever something that let's say, that came to me when I was in any relationship? The relationship always came before it.
Oh, definitely.
But in a fairly natural way. Not in a way where I felt I'm sacrificing something.
Yeah. But I'm not sacrificing anything for. If I want to play a game, I will play it. If I want to stream it, I will stream it, and that is why.
It was always about if I want to play it, and
that is why I'm single.
That makes sense. I mean, for me,
and because I'm a fat fuck.
If I feel like playing a game, I'll play a game. Like a much more important point to me for my relationships was the fact that how there's a saying, find a job you love and you won't work a day in your life, right?
Yeah.
That's something that was an impediment. Like whatever girl I end up with, she has to understand that it's not that she doesn't, that my work comes first, right? It's not about like that in order of priority. It means though that my mind is very into what I do. It's not like I go wake up in the day, do this stuff and kind of turn it off and I'll think about this tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
It's the shit that I take home. It's stuff that when I have nothing to do, what do? I sit and do this, I either play games or I sit and work because it's not work, I call it work, but just like, yeah, okay, research, it's something you want to do. It's something that you drive on yourself, So my last girlfriend, for example, she was always critical of me working on weekends. Sometimes I would, we would go there, and then I'll be like, Saturday, right? Yeah. She's like, let's have a fun day. And I'm like, sure, like we can go like now, but I got to get some hours of work in,
Yeah, that's a bit too much.
It's not because anybody's holding, I mean, it is a bit too much, but it's kind of, I got it because I feel like this is my day off. My brain is not like, it's kind of at its best. You know what I mean? This is when I get to do this for fun, is on a Saturday.
Yeah. One of my thoughts when you play that much Dota and how repetitive it is, I always think about, well, that's your kind of meditation.
Yes, no, but Dota is not really repetitive. That's the really beautiful aspect about the game.
After 10,000 hours, it is repetitive.
I know it sounds weird. but it's not.
Oh.
It's a game. It's one of those games that have almost infinite replayability value. You have 10 people selecting out of 117 heroes, different sides, patches that consistently change the game and its balance. You know what I mean? It's not like the game is static, and there's patches that change all the balance in the game often. There's things that are coming in and out of mana. We're not even starting to talk about the hundreds of items that you have that you can build and the tactical aspects of it and when you do what versus what, where, which lane, how are they doing what they're doing. It's the difference between I played StarCraft as well, and the difference between Dota and StarCraft is in StarCraft it's clear cut. Enemy does A, you do B, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
In Dota, that's not the case. In enemy does A, you might do any one of like 20 possible things that might be the right one, and you're not going to be certain. There's never going to be certainty. It's way more quantum mechanical. It's not deterministic. It's not like A leads to B. It's like, okay, if A, then some percentage B, some percentage C, some percentage D, some percentage this. I need to think about not just that, but what each of them of those options would mean further down the road. And it's like not repetitive because you don't really almost ever get to choose the same thing twice.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you do, choosing the same thing twice doesn't guarantee the same result.
No, because it's playing against different
Yes.
hero.
Like sometimes, dude, it took me 10,000 games of this fucking Dota 2, okay, to have a moment where I was left dumbfounded. I was playing mid lane, which is the solo lane, which is the most important, like, 1v1 where we made the most XP levels and everything, the most individual skill, and I was destroying their fucking mid lane, like destroying. Like I killed him 3 times in the lane, right? I'm 3 levels ahead of him. Is like insanely ahead, okay? He has no items, but he has an ability that has a very low percentage chance to crit for a ton of damage, okay?
Yeah.
And at some point where I'm so far ahead and I make this one play.
I knew it. See? It was weed. Local dealer. Most likely a pharmacy. In Israel, weed is, medical weed is legal. Which I think recreational and medical weed should be legal everywhere. It has a great many medicinal benefits, but it also has a great many benefits on mood, and it's way more healthy than alcohol. So please, politicians, should any of you Nordic dumb fucks politicians listen to this, legalize weed. You'll make money. Well, the country, as corrupt as you are, you will make money too, but the country itself will also make money. Thank you. I don't think this is the right way to sell it. My rhetoric may need to change a little bit to have a positive effect on politicians listening. Please legalize weed. I don't smoke it myself. I can't say that I plan to in the future, but those who smoke it, let them. It's not dangerous. It's get over it. Get into the 21st century, legalize weed, and stop being all into what people do. Get out of their fucking business. It's not dangerous. You can go into psychosis, but you can go into psychosis from sniffing paint. And paint is not illegal. Right? I think. Can you go down if you're very young and buy paint? Like 10 years old, go down. Hey, I want to buy this really strong paint. Can you do that? There's a law against that, and then you go out and sniff the fucking shit out of that paint and get so fucking high and destroy your brain at the same time. But no, a puff of weed. Ooh. I don't know. Maybe I see it wrong. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a physicist, as we just heard. I have chef training, but not a lot, yeah. So, kids, if you listen to this, stay in school. Do something. Don't just get your bouncing jobs because it's easy. Do something. Go to school. Have fun with it. If you can't have fun with it, at least go through it. Something. Oh. Yeah, ask Dave. He's a better guidance counselor than I am. And it's such a cool thing. I get to edit this afterwards. That it's not just a conversation that's going on live and will stay on. I can edit all the silence out. And we've been going for 2 hours and 2 minutes. And what we were going to talk about today was we want to make a podcast, 3 of us. Iskav, Dave, and I. We want to make a podcast where we talk shit while playing games or just sit back and talk shit, because that's what I do best, is talk about shit without any real backup to it. And that will be great having Iskav and Dave, because they're smarter than I am. They know way more about their various individual situations. So yeah, I can ask dumb questions. They can explain things to me. It's great. I can explain to them how long you cook a steak. Welcome back.
Oh, Mickey, you're so fine. But I'm enjoying the view of my newly purchased bud work.
Ooh, you're weed.
I always like spectating it before I dig into it. Oh
So-
my god, this is so purple. What the fuck, dude?
Then it's good medicine.
That is some purpley, purple. It's so purple. Dude, it's so purple.
Oh, listen to that. That's how a real drug addict sounds. Can you hear the evil in his voice?
I know. It's so happy. I feel like I couldn't harm a fly right now. You hear the evil in his voice.
Yeah.
Oh
That's how drug addicts are.
man! No! This deserves a fucking picture. I just can't. I can't. It's too purple. I've never had a. It's like the most purple of the purple life of purple.
Okay, if you send a picture to me, I will put it into. I will edit it into this podcast, along with.
I think that's a bad idea. I prefer we don't do that. Thank you very much.
I can't show pictures of your weed. God damn it! Should I edit out that you smoke weed? Silence. Use silence again.
Hang on. Just the right purple angle.
So I'm guessing I'm getting the nicest picture of. Some people they
Perhaps.
take pictures of their food, and Dave takes pictures of his weed.
I also take pictures of my food and my weed.
Oh, okay. You're very diverse then.
Thank you.
Both pictures of food and weed.
Like this.
So I shouldn't ask any questions about your weed, where you get it from.
I hope this works. We'll try this.
Weed man. Do-do-do.
No. I am like right now turning over and sending. Do you see the purpleness?
No. Yeah, I see some purple, like little buds of like lavender.
Yeah, basically, it's hard to see the purpleness.
Mhm.
Going to right now chop off the very top of this very purple bud. Okay, so I'm going to take all the purple. I'm going to take all the purpleness and all of it. It's going to go
Down back,
one.
because that was a number I didn't know, so I'm not going to answer.
I am going to put all the purpleness into one joint and smoke it.
Smoke. Let's see here. Hello. I'm back.
That's actual Pineapple Express.
Ooh.
And I can't believe it, man. I don't get fooled easily by strains of weed, but this is legit. No, you don't have to ever. I never said his name. I don't know his name. That's the convenient aspect of it. So he doesn't know my name. I don't know his name. Oh, Dunning-Kruger.
Okay, let's end it here because I need to get ready. Meeting my mom.
Got you. Peace.
And we will, next time we talk, let's try and find out exactly what concept we want. This was a pleasant talk, which we could duplicate. Not exactly, but you know, what we will.
Okay. I'm gonna go smoke my shit, man. You go get ready. Good luck and have fun.
Yeah. We talk. Bye.
Peace.
Bye.